and that is to prepare students for life and the working world. And therefore, our yardstick will be who better fulfills the role of education and who better benefits students themselves. But before I begin with my speech, a few definitions to call out. First, on secondary schools. Secondary schools are institutions that provide secondary education to children between the ages of 13 to 16. And a key characteristic of these schools is that they allow students to choose subjects that they want to take when they are 15 or in secondary school. Because the term secondary school is used in Singapore, we will contextualize it here, but we are willing to engage them on their grounds if they want it in any other countries. Compulsory means that we will make debating classes a requirement with no exceptions, except for certain special cases such as being nude, in which case you obviously will not be able to debate. So our policy is that we will require students from secondary 1 and secondary 2 to take debate as a compulsory subject, no thank you sir. And in secondary 3 they will be given a choice on whether or not they want to continue to pursue debate by making it either their core or elective subject. And debate classes will be conducted by trained professionals who will be allocated by the Singapore Debate Association or others in respective countries. So these classes will cover style and content training and feature debates. And to examine them, two teams of 3 speakers will be pit against each other and will be graded just like today in a SSDC format, which consists of style, content, and strategy. And whether the team wins or lose will not make a difference. What will make a difference in the grade will be the score of the individual person himself. So my substantive for house today will be developing cognitive function, while my second speaker will be talking about developing social well-being. So onto my substantive. Well, the thesis for this argument is that debate classes help students to broaden their learning and enhance creativity, logic, and creativity. So what is the role of education? The role of education is not just to be constantly studying, but it's to benefit students in the long run, to equip them, no thank you sirs, with the skill sets they need to succeed in life and in their career, and while making sure that they are socially and mentally benefited in order to create a well-rounded personality. So why would we do this in secondary school? Because we think that debate is a somewhat complicated subject. It requires some amount of general knowledge and ability to logically nuance your ideas and be mature enough to understand difficult topics. No thank you sir. And therefore we think that secondary school students will be mature enough to do this, and that's why we'll make it compulsory. So on to my first idea, on creativity. Hold on a moment sir. Where we understand that the situation of debate means that you are placed in a room to discuss and think about issues and examples that may be out of your normal scope of knowledge, and that you need to be creative in order to be able to explain them and understand them. Yes sir.
Sir, how are you so sure that as for class, all 33 students will be fully interested in learning debate and will make entire use of it?
The current education system doesn't work that way. You don't need to be fully interested in a subject to be taught it. I may not be interested in language arts. I may not be interested in learning music. But the point is, we are given these subjects because it's supposed to help us enhance our perspective and be able to understand things that are beyond just math and science and the sciences. And that's why we are going to make debate classes compulsory. So back to my substantive on creativity. Back to my idea on creativity. And this means that students are placed in a room to discuss and think about issues and examples that are simple and yet complex. This means that it forces students to think hard and to understand both sides of an issue. And this means that this results in a further benefit. Why? Because it teaches people to be able to understand different nuances in life and in the debate itself, and to be able to understand and defend points such as legalizing drugs, something that we will not support in ordinary life, but that debate helps us to understand why maybe banning drugs may not be such a good idea after all. So this means that this makes debate extremely effective to understand and think of points that relate to emotion. No thank you sir. Because many emotions have complex issues and elusive arguments. And this means that students will be creative in being able to defend their stance and look at issues with a new perspective. So on to my second idea.
Point sir.
No thank you sir. On to my second idea on logic, where we see that logic is extremely important in debate. Because it's not just about making a blunt point, but it's also about explaining ideas properly in a nuanced manner and explaining complex subjects, no thank you sir, in a manner that the audience can understand, to guide them through the steps and make them able to understand your perspective, your point of view, and to convince the adjudicators of the house today. It means that, and this means that when students try to create a policy or try to For example, if you have a history essay, you need to think of many points and explain them logically, just like I hope I'm doing now. So whether you are a lawyer or an entrepreneur, you need to think about the consequences of a certain topic of your action and explain it well. And opposition cannot contest it because our side provides benefits for the world that their side does not. So on to my third idea on quick thinking. When debate, when opposition gives me a point of information, I need to be able to respond quickly, on the spot, and succinctly, and explain my point well. During rebuttals, debaters have to think, listen, and write down points in just 6 minutes. What does this mean? This means that people are taught to see through numerous ideas at one point in time, to be able to process them and be able to respond and understand, and respond to them. Well, this means that it's obvious in debate that we need to be able to think on the spot. And this is extremely important in the modern hectic world life, where we need to be able to defend our arguments and understand them. So for all these reasons, go with our side of the